Good morning. It's a pleasant Thursday morning and we're back once again with Breakfast News. I'm Preeti. With me is Shubhendu. And it's the first comprehensive show which we get for you every morning to make sure that your morning starts on the right note. We'll get you national updates, international updates. We'll get you updates from the world of business, sports, a web news review. Enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour to make sure that your tea or coffee right in the morning tastes even better.
Absolutely. Thanks, Preeti, and good morning. Welcome to Breakfast News. Day's first comprehensive news roundup. Big stories, Preeti, that we'll be tracking is transformative infrastructure going to be. The foundation will be laid today. Jewar Airport in Noida, in Uttar Pradesh, and how it's going to sort of change the destiny of the region. We'll also talk about the new step up for the Indian Navy as INS Vela is set to become a part of it. All that and much more. First, the top stories.
A new chapter will be added in development journey of Uttar Pradesh today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of Noida International Airport at Jewar in Uttar Pradesh. Jewar will be world's 4th largest international airport.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs 39th Progress Meeting of Pragati. Project worth 20,000 crores reviewed. Prime Minister says Poshan Abhiyan should be implemented in every state in mission mode with full government approach.
Union Cabinet approves bill withdrawing 3 agricultural laws. The bill will be introduced in winter session of Parliament. The Cabinet also approves the continuation of PM Garib Kalyan Yojana till March 2022.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent India in SCO meet today on virtual format. Meeting will be attended by heads of government of SCO member countries, observer states, Secretary General of SCO. Afghanistan is also on agenda.
Indian Navy to commission INS Vela today to strengthen country's maritime strategic power. This is the 4th submarine of the Scorpene design. Kalwari class, which will be inducted by Navy Chief Admiral Karambir Singh in the Naval Fleet. Vela, indigenously designed under Make in India.
And in sports, first match of the 2-match cricket test series between India and New Zealand will start in Kanpur today. In absence of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Ajinkya Rahane will play as the captain of the team. Those were the top stories. Now let's look at the stories in detail.
Yes, we'll get to the top story. Uttar Pradesh is poised to become the only state in India to have 5 international airports, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of the Noida International Airport in Jewar, Gautam Budh Nagar in Uttar Pradesh today. Now, Jewar will be the world's 4th largest international airport. The development of the airport is in line with the vision of Prime Minister towards creating a future-ready aviation sector. A special focus of this grand vision has been on the state of Uttar Pradesh that is witnessing development of multiple new international airports. There is also a lot of enthusiasm among the local people about this airport being built in Jewar, and also they're hopeful that after the construction of this airport, development will get more momentum in this area. Take a look at this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of the Noida International Airport in Jewar, Uttar Pradesh on 25th of November. With this, Uttar Pradesh is poised to become the only state in the country to have 5 international airports. Development of the airport is in line with the vision of Prime Minister towards boosting connectivity and creating a future-ready aviation sector.
नोएडा इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट के निर्माण के साथ इसमें लगभग 34 से लेकर 35,000 करोड़ रुपए का निवेश अकेले इस एयरपोर्ट पर होगा। 1 लाख से अधिक लोगों को नौकरी और रोजगार यहां पर उपलब्ध होंगे। 2024 में यह एयरपोर्ट फंक्शनल हो जाएगा और उत्तर प्रदेश का यह 5वां इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट होगा।
This airport will be the second international airport to come up in Delhi NCR. It will help decongest the IGI airport It will serve the people of cities including Delhi, Noida, Ghaziabad, Aligarh, Agra, Faridabad and neighbouring areas. The development of the first phase of the airport is being done with a cost of over 10,050 crore rupees. The completed first phase of the airport will have a capacity to serve around 1.2 crore passengers a year. It is scheduled to be completed by 2024. The airport will also house a state-of-the-art MRO service facility.
केवल जेल एयरपोर्ट के आगमन से ही इंडस्ट्री के तमाम क्लस्टर्स यहाँ आए, करीब 12 से नई इंडस्ट्रीज आ गई हैं, फिल्म सिटी आ रही है, लॉजिस्टिक पार्क आ रहा है, हेरिटेज कॉरिडोर आ रहा है, टॉय पार्क आ रहा है, एक मेडिकल डिवाइस पार्क के लिए भारत सरकार ने अनुमति दी है। इस सब के पीछे जो मुख्य केंद्र बिंदु है वो जेल एयरपोर्ट है।
The airport will be the logistics gateway of northern India. For the first time, an airport in India has been conceptualized with an integrated multi-modal cargo hub with a focus on reducing the total cost and time for logistics. The dedicated cargo terminal will have capacity of 20 lakh metric ton, which will be expanded to 80 lakh metric ton. The airport will play a crucial role in helping the region attract huge investments and boost rapid industrial growth.
जब से प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी बने, उन्होंने जेवर की तरफ मोड़ा सारे निवेशकों को और यहाँ एयरपोर्ट को मंजूरी दिलाकर वो मुकाम और कामयाबी हासिल की जिसकी पूरे उत्तर प्रदेश को बहुत दिनों से इंतजार था।
Noida and Delhi will be connected to the airport through hassle-free metro service. All major nearby roads and highways like the Yamuna Expressway, Western Peripheral Expressway, Eastern Peripheral Expressway, Delhi-Mumbai Expressway and others will be connected to the airport.
जेवर एयरपोर्ट आ ही रहा है, बड़ी खुशी की बात है। मोदी जी योगी जी सही काम कर रहे हैं।
एयरपोर्ट से यहाँ पे लोगों को रोजगार भी मिलेगा, बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों की जो बेरोजगारी थी वो खत्म होगी।
The design of the Jewar airport is focused on low operating cost and seamless and fast transfer processes for passengers. With Arun Sharma, Shailendra Mishra, DD India.
All right, Meghna Dev is joining us to get us more on that. Meghna, we've given a detailed report telling us how it will be not only change for the state of Uttar Pradesh, but also change of fortune for people there. They're very optimistic and enthusiastic about this. The airport will be inaugurated today. Let us know, to begin with, is the stage all set? Preparations all in place?
Definitely, you know, as you speak and as we were speaking to the locals here and we were getting to know how important it is for them to have this airport here and what are they expecting. So major, major things which came out from the localites here was first, generation of employment, second, transportation becoming very easy, and third, more connectivity to be coming here because of the airport. In a sense, then as we see that, you know, number of expressways are going to be linked, highways are going to be linked to this airport to actually enhance connectivity, enhance ease of transportation. Besides that, also this airport is going to be linked to the Delhi-Varanasi high-speed rails, so that the transit time between Delhi and this airport, it is going to be just 21 minutes of drive, just 21 minutes. So that is going to be, very important to actually have reduced travel time. Besides that, very importantly, when we talk about the airport, it is obviously net zero emissions airport. Besides that, very importantly, it is going to have a dedicated cargo terminal. Now, what also essential is that IGI, it is going to help decongest the IGI airport, so that the kind of the cargo can be, the cargo and freight can go and be loaded and unloaded from here. A dedicated cargo terminal is going to be built at this airport. So definitely that is going to enhance or encourage, in a sense, more industry players to come and for logistics is going to help in the logistics in a sense. So definitely. Various things just with this airport coming in, tourism, industry, employment, all these sectors are going to get a massive growth, and when we will see the first phase getting completed, that is going to actually enhance a lot of traffic at this place, besides also boosting, the industrial growth here around.
Right, Meghna, we also know it's a magnificent piece of infrastructure. It's going to be India's one of largest airport and also world's largest airport amongst the top ones. What kind of timeline are we looking at? The first phase, of course, gets concluded by about 2024. But for a mega infrastructure of this size, how long will it take for it to become fully operational?
Shubhendu, if I could get your question right, there's a lot of noise already here. Very difficult to hear from this place. Besides that, also we are going to see a massive rally here. A huge rally is expected here. Besides that, when we actually talk about the different kind of operational, things here, it's also going to have, swing aircraft facilities so that, there is no loss of time when, domestic once say the same aircraft has to have domestic or international flights. Besides that, very importantly, the maintenance work, overhauling, all of that system is also going to be, modernized systems. Besides that, when we actually talk about, net zero emissions, very important, a sustainable measure for the airport. Also, when we see that number of, cities like Delhi, Agra, Faridabad, Aligarh, for example, these cities are going to be benefited quite a lot, and especially, the people, especially with international airports. And when we actually see, tourism is being given a lot of emphasis. We see Ayodhya, in Ayodhya also an international airport will be coming up, and then we see in Jewar also an international airport coming up. We recently had the Kushinagar International Airport, a very important, place for the Buddhist pilgrims, connecting the Buddhists to the Mahaparinirvana Sthal. So it is very important in that aspect for Buddhist pilgrims. So, in a sense, connecting, giving ease of connectivity, especially for tourists also, and ensuring that more international tourists can have ease of coming to a place, and, tourism can be boosted, which will eventually also lead to boosting of employment. So definitely, strategically also, this is a very important step. Besides that, in mission mode, the work is going on when we talk about connectivity, when we talk about expressways, highways, rail connectivity, road connectivity, or air connectivity for that matter.
All right. Yes, Meghna, this will indeed be a boost to the aviation sector, and for any region to flourish, basic infrastructure development is a very important aspect of that progress. And when we're talking of Uttar Pradesh as a region, in the report also which we showed, a number of initiatives, measures have been put in place for this facelift of the state. Put all this together, how do you evaluate how well are the times, for the changing for the state?
No doubt that we actually see a complete facelift, a revamp in a sense, about a 360-degree revamp of the state, in a sense that, now industries want to come into Uttar Pradesh. Now, at a point of time, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had also said in one of his recent addresses that there was a time when industries did not want to come to Uttar Pradesh because of lack of connectivity. Many leaders made promises that we will, set up big industries without actually seeing that there is a huge lack of connectivity, and facilitating connectivity for industries will actually boost industrial growth, and industrial growth is definitely going to boost the overall development of a region. So that emphasis has been laid upon. When we actually talk about ease of the transportation of logistics, ease of flying of vehicles, that saves time, that saves money, and that is what industries look forward to. Besides that, when we also talk about that how we had the investors summit in Uttar Pradesh, we have had medical colleges, new medical colleges being set up in Uttar Pradesh. We have had more national highways, expressways, especially from people traveling from Delhi to Bihar. There are expressways which are going to facilitate travel. So not only in terms of the aviation sector getting a major boost, high-speed rail connectivity, all of that is being ensured so that more and more industries come in Uttar Pradesh, and that is going to actually generate more employment, enhance tourism in a sense, because obviously when we see that more connectivity is there, tourists find it easy to come to a place and visit. So definitely, these are some of the major things, major steps that have been taken to actually give a complete revamp to Uttar Pradesh. And when we actually see Uttar Pradesh becoming the only state in India with 5 international airports, this was a very far a dream, or probably many people, the people of Uttar Pradesh would not even have dreamt of to have 5 international airports, and that is going to ensure how much emphasis and how much of a focus or priority is the government giving on a major facelift of Uttar Pradesh to tap the untapped potential.
Absolutely.
The potential that
Meghna,
has been untapped for so many years.
a transformative piece of infrastructure indeed.
To bring in more business,
Right.
to bring in more tourists, and to actually give a major facelift to the entire state.
Right there, Meghna, thanks very much for getting us all the details about the foundation laying of this huge airport that is coming up in Jewar, Uttar Pradesh. Let's move on to our next big story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired the meeting of the 39th edition of Pragati, the ICT-based multi-modal platform for proactive governance and timely implementation involving centre, state governments on Wednesday. In the meeting, 9 agenda items were taken for review, including 8 projects and 1 scheme. Among the 8 projects, 3 were from Ministry of Railways, 2 each from Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and Ministry of Power, and 1 project was from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The 8 projects, having a cumulative cost of Rs 20,000 crores, are concerning 7 states: Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra and West Bengal. Prime Minister stressed upon timely completion of projects to avoid cost overruns. During the interaction, Prime Minister reviewed the Poshan Abhiyan as well. He said the Abhiyan should be implemented in mission mode in each state with a whole of government approach. He also talked about participation of self-help groups and other local organizations in promoting awareness about children's health and nutrition at the grassroots level, which will help in improving the reach and uptake of the Abhiyan. Up to 38 editions of Pragati meeting, 303 projects having a total of Rs 14.64 lakh crore have been reviewed.
The 20th meeting of the SCO Council of Heads of Governments will be held today in Nur Sultan in a virtual format under the chairmanship of Kazakhstan. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent India in the meeting. This meeting is held annually and focuses on the trade and economic agenda of the organization and also to approve its annual budget. The meeting will be attended by the head of governments of the member states, observer states, Secretary General of the SCO, Executive Director of the SCO Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, Turkmenistan and also other invited guests. India is actively engaged in various SCO activities and dialogue mechanisms in the region as well as other multilateral cooperation within the SCO framework.
And President Ramnath Kovind, who is on a 2-day visit to Uttar Pradesh, will attend the centenary celebrations of Harcourt Butler Technical University today. President will release a coffee table book, a book narrating the history of the university, a postage stamp, a special cover and a photograph of a coin based on the centenary celebrations of HBTU. Along with this, President will also inaugurate 10 buildings of the university, including the Vice-Chancellor's residence and the hostel building for the students. Harcourt Butler Technical University, HBTU, is a premier state technical university situated in Kanpur. HBTU was named after Sir Spencer Harcourt Butler, Governor of United Provinces in British India, and is one of the oldest engineering institutions in the country.
Yesterday, the President graced the birth centenary celebrations of Chaudhry Harmohan Singh Yadav and addressed the birth centenary celebrations of Chaudhry Harmohan Singh Yadav. Also, he paid floral tributes to the leader. The President said that Chaudhry Harmohan Singh Yadav helped in spreading the branches of education. The President also highlighted that Yadav believed that the basis of development should be education.
क्षेत्र का विकास जितना हो सकता है यहाँ की परंपराओं और यहाँ की अनुकूलताओं के आधार पर बहुत कुछ किया गया, लेकिन जिस श्रृंखला का उल्लेख किया गया उससे मैं आज बहुत प्रभावित हूँ। शिक्षण संस्थाओं का जाल, एक ऐसा जाल बिछा दिया गया और जिसके लिए चौधरी हरमोहन सिंह बहुत हम सबको कई बार कहते थे कि भाई कुछ आपके गांव में हो सके तो हो, ना हो सके, विकास हो या ना हो, लेकिन विकास का जो आधार है वो शिक्षा होती है और शिक्षा यदि बच्चों को मिलेगा तो अपने आप विकास का रास्ता ढूंढ लेंगे।
The President said that India is celebrating 75 years of its independence and there are many unsung freedom fighters who were lost in the pages of history, and also during Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we shall remember all of them.
भारत की विकास यात्रा में शिक्षकों और युवाओं की प्रभावशाली भूमिका रही है और आने वाले समय में देश के भविष्य को संवारने में भी उनकी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रहेगी। भारत की आज़ादी के 75 वर्ष पूरे होने वाले हैं और इस समय पूरे देश में आज़ादी का अमृत महोत्सव मनाया जा रहा है। आज़ादी की लड़ाई में हजारों सेनानियों ने अपना सर्वस्व न्यौछावर कर दिया था। इनमें से अनेक बलिदानियों के नाम हम जानते हैं, लेकिन बहुतों के नाम इतिहास के पन्नों में कहीं गुम हो गए। 2 वर्ष तक चलने वाले इस महोत्सव के दौरान हम स्वाधीनता संग्राम के इन गुमनाम सेनानियों के योगदान का भी स्मरण करेंगे।
And we are heading for a short break in Breakfast News. Lots more coming up. Do stay with us.
As the day unfolds and news and events take shape, we get you complete coverage of every news breaking in, tracking new developments as they happen. Midday Prime English, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Breakfast News. Let's continue with national updates again.
That's right. Let's look at some more stories. BJP National President JP Nadda reached Panaji, Goa on Wednesday night. After reaching Goa, he addressed the medical professionals in Panaji. He lauded their efforts and sacrifices during India's fight against the pandemic and thanked them for their selfless service. The event was organized by State Medical Cell of the BJP. Chief Minister Pramod Sawant, State Health Minister Vishwajit Rane, Goa BJP President Sadanand Sheth Tanwade, Goa BJP Medical Cell in charge Dr. Shekhar Salkar were also present at the event. Nadda would be addressing public meetings at Satari and Bicolem today.
Indian Navy will commission a new stealth submarine INS Vela today. Now this comes days after India commissioned an indigenously designed stealth-guided missile destroyer INS Visakhapatnam. According to the Indian Navy, induction of the submarine consolidates Indian Navy's position as a builder's navy significantly and also adds sharpness and strength to its combat capability.
Feather to its cap. After conducting intense sea and harbour trial, the Indian Navy is all set to induct its 4th stealth Scorpion-class submarine INS Vela into its arsenal on November 25th, giving a major push to its firepower as well as the Make in India initiative. Built by Mazagon Dock Ship Builders Limited in collaboration with Naval Group of France, Vela is the 4th submarine of the 6th Kalvari-class project, with submarines Kalvari, Khanderi and Karanj already in service. The new Vela is a potent man of war and is capable of offensive operation that span across the entire spectrum of maritime warfare.
Submarines are a weapon of offense, and they greatly add to the naval combat capability. These boats are the best in the world. They compare with the best conventional submarines in the world. They have heavyweight torpedoes and missiles, and they have very high, good stealth capability, and our indigenous content has also gone up. So therefore, overall, it's a very positive and proud moment for all of us.
INS Vela is equipped with state-of-the-art technology used in Scorpion class. The submarine has superior stealth features such as advanced acoustic silencing techniques, low radiated noise levels and ability to launch crippling attacks with precision-guided weapons on board.
ये सबमरीन इसका इस तरह से डिज़ाइन की हाइड्रोडायनामिक डिज़ाइन इस तरह से बनाया गया है कि ये बहुत ही कम जो है नॉइस जनरेट करती है ताकि ये दुश्मन की पकड़ में ना आए, और इसका जो सोनार है वो इतना एडवांस है कि दुश्मन की छोटी सी छोटी हरकत को भी पकड़ सकता है। इस सबमरीन को बेसिकली दुश्मन को पकड़ के घात लगा के ढूंढ के मारने के लिए डिजाइन किया गया है और ये बहुत ही बेहतरीन तरीके से ये काम कर रही है।
Not just that, the submarine can attack by launching the torpedoes and anti-ship missiles while remaining underwater or on the surface, further enhancing the Indian Navy's capacity and firepower to address the threats both in the above water and underwater domains.
Commissioning of Vela not just enhances the strength of Indian Navy but further cements the India's position as the submarine building nation. With camera person Naveen Paul, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
Shama Mishra is joining us, telling us more about INS Vela. She's joining us from Mumbai. Shama, take us through how INS Vela forms an important addition to an empowered Indian Navy.
Yes, Bindu, we are here at the commissioning ceremony of INS Vela. Vela for now, and when once it's commissioned, it will become INS Vela. So yes, the Chief of Naval Staff, Karamveer Singh, he would be coming here and presiding over the commissioning ceremony. And once we are talking about how the strength of Indian Navy would be further, strengthened after the induction of INS Vela, because we have to see that just 4 days back, the most potent warship made by the Indian Navy or shipbuilders was INS Visakhapatnam that was commissioned, and after 4 days we are seeing another induction of the submarine. Talking about the submarines, you've already mentioned the features. The most important part of any submarine would be the capability of remaining in a stealth mode, and this does exactly that. When we are talking about undertaking any operation, once it's already under the activity, this submarine would remain as silent as possible, so that the enemy would not know that here is the submarine which is there present underwater. Apart from that, if any noise or any even if a minute of noise comes from the enemy's side, this submarine would be able to catch that noise with its powerful sensor. Apart from that, it can also do intelligence gathering, having information, checking out, taking information, gathering information. Apart from that, it can also lay mines. So not just carrying the operations underwater and above water, this can do much more than that. When we are talking about this Project 75, because this is in collaboration with the French design, French technology, this is also called the Aviscopy first submarine. So there are total 6 submarines. The first submarine was Kalvari, and that's why hence it is called the Kalvari class. 4 submarines have already been in commissioning. 4th one is Vela. Apart from this, we also know there are 2 more upcoming 2 more submarines. Vagir, which is already launched. It is undergoing harbor and sea trials. It might take another 1 year or more to get commissioned into the Indian Navy. Apart from that, the Bakshi submarine, all the things. So that would be seeing its launch, say about 2 to 3 years later. When we are talking about the power of Indian Navy or power of India, it has to be, further strengthened, because the power shifting is happening continuously, and especially in area, Indian Ocean region, and it is important for Indian Navy not just be present over there, but also keep themselves updated, show themselves that they are also the strongest in that region. So these submarines, these warships are an added advantage after the
Yes,
man,
indeed.
because we know man and machine both make the Indian Navy strong. So yes, with induction of INS Vela, Indian Navy would be further strengthened.
All right, you're talking of Project 75, Shama, and we know how far and to what extent will this help in further strengthening the empowered, Indian Navy. But also a very important aspect of this is the Make in India or Atmanirbharta. Talk more about it. How far or to what extent will it further take forward the idea of self-reliance for the country?
So when we are, indigenization or self-reliance, this has always been the mantra of Indian Navy, and after this mantra been given from the Prime Minister, Indian Navy is taking it more seriously, and we are seeing this construction of these submarines or warships, even Visakhapatnam, has been totally indigenized and totally done, in Matra Dock Limited. But the design of the submarine has been of French. India is trying hard and working towards achieving this particular achievement as well. Apart from that, we are also talking about the features inside the submarine, the batteries in the submarine. That is also indigenously built. And when we know that we have the technologies, we have the idea of how it is built, we become even stronger. So indigenization, the content of indigenization in this submarine is the highest, even if you are comparing it to the previous submarines as well. Even in Visakhapatnam, when we are talking about, it was more than 70%. The content of indigenization was more than 70%. So yes, we are talking about indigenization and self-reliance in India, and how Indian Navy is leading the way towards this Atmanirbhar Bharat motto of India.
Right there, Shama. The state-of-the-art submarine Vela all set to be commissioned into the Indian Navy. Thanks very much for getting us those updates from Mumbai.
All right, let's further take a look at the COVID vaccination coverage across the country. It has crossed 119 crore milestone. Cumulatively, 119 crore 27 lakh 78,005 beneficiaries have been inoculated so far, and more than 79 lakh 65,000 vaccine doses were administered on Wednesday. That is the 313th day of India's largest vaccination program.
Let's talk about some cabinet decisions 5 days after Prime Minister Modi announced the decision to repeal the 3 farm laws against which the farmers had been protesting. Union Cabinet on Wednesday cleared the bill to be taken up in the upcoming Parliament session to roll back the laws. The bill, now approved by the Cabinet, will be introduced in the winter session of the Parliament that is beginning next week. Union Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said in the upcoming session of the Parliament, complete procedure to take back the 3 farm laws will be the government's priority.
कैबिनेट की बैठक हुई तो उसमें इन सभी औपचारिकताओं को पूरा करके कैबिनेट ने तीनों बिल वापस लेने का जो औपचारिकता है उसको पूरा किया है। कुछ ही दिनों के बाद अगले हफ्ते की शुरुआत में पार्लियामेंट का सत्र आएगा और ये जो तीनों विधेयक लोकसभा राज्यसभा में पूर्व में पास हुए थे, इनको वहां पर बाकी जो प्रक्रिया वापस लेने की वहां पर पूरी कर दी जाएगी।
Meanwhile, as part of the economic response to COVID-19, Cabinet also approved the extension of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana for another 4 months. The scheme now goes into its 5th phase at 5 kg per person per month, free of cost of all the beneficiaries covered under National Food Security Act, including those covered under direct benefit transfer. The extension will be for the period of December 2021 to March 2022. The food grain under Phase 5 would entail an estimated food subsidy of Rs 53,344.52 crores. While announcing the decision, Union Minister said India is the only country in the world that has given free food grains to around 80 crore people. He also informed that approval has been given to provide 609 lakh metric tons of food grains, on which about 2,60,000 crore rupees will be spent.
प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना के माध्यम से देश के लगभग 80 करोड़ से ज़्यादा लोगों को 5 किलो गेहूं या चावल मुफ्त में देने की योजना जो मार्च 2020 से लेकर अब तक लगभग 15 महीने तक देश के करोड़ों को देने का काम किया है, करोड़ों लोगों को देने का काम किया है, उसमें दिसंबर 2021 से लेकर मार्च 2022 तक 4 महीने के लिए बढ़ाने का निर्णय किया गया है।
TRF top commander Mehran Yassin was among the 3 terrorists killed in an encounter with security forces in Srinagar. The incident took place on Wednesday when, acting swiftly on specific inputs regarding movement of terrorists in Rambagh area of Srinagar, a small team from Srinagar police signalled a suspected Santro vehicle to stop. However, the terrorists started firing indiscriminately on the police party from inside the car while trying to flee the spot under the cover of firing. The police retaliated, leading to gunfight. 3 terrorists got killed and were identified as terrorists of the proscribed terror outfit LET TRF. Mehran Yassin Shala, resident of Jamalata, Srinagar; Manzoor Ahmed Mir, resident of Bhabhar, Pulwama; and Arafat Ahmed Sheikh, resident of Niklura, Pulwama. They were identified, and incriminating materials including arms and ammunition has been recovered from their possession. Police has registered a case in this regard and investigation is in progress. IGP Kashmir appreciated the role of Srinagar police in conducting the successful operation without any collateral damage.
And Delhi police have busted an interstate module of illegal arms suppliers and arrested 2 dealers in this connection. According to the officials, ATS staff of Dwarka district seized 10 country-made pistols and 1 stolen motorcycle from the accused. Furnishing details about the operation, Deputy Commissioner of Police Shankar Chaudhary said both the gang members were involved in supplying illegal firearms to gangsters in Delhi NCR. In an exclusive conversation with DD News correspondent Tapush Bhattacharya, DCP Shankar Chaudhary said Delhi police is having no tolerance policy for criminals and is working hard to make Delhi streets safer.
Joining me is DCP Dwarka, Shankar Chaudhary, to talk about the work that has been done by the Delhi police.
After assuming the charge of Dwarka as the DCP Dwarka, we had launched an operation named Varchasva, and it is more of a strategy and also of a philosophy where we focus on 2-3 things majorly, apart from the various other aspects of it, and that is zero tolerance on street and organized crimes. We have caught huge consignments of arms, drugs, and we have solved heinous cases within a set deadline. In 210 days, we had deported or prosecuted almost 202 illegal Africans. But in my tenureship in the last 40-45 days, we have deported and prosecuted 216. So the number goes 5 times. We have caught almost heroin worth 15 crores only under my tenureship. That's what I'm trying to emphasize upon. And we have caught another huge consignment of arms that you are seeing today, that 10 country-made pistols have been recovered.
10 pistols have been recovered. Any lead up, and do you believe that the source will be maybe not in Delhi but maybe outside?
Operating outside Delhi and catching the source always remains a challenge for any police. As of now, what I can tell you at this stage of investigation is that our teams are raiding different places, and the source is definitely outside Delhi.
We're seeing the policing, especially on road, increasing in times to come.
Police visibility has always been the prime focus of Delhi Police, and as per the directions and instructions and the vision of Commissioner of Police Delhi, we have been asked to increase the visibility. We have seen a huge decline in street crimes and organized crimes, and in the PCR calls also. And now the good works, which we call in our police, is that catching of of any criminal. Then the quantum and the nature is very impressive.
That was the DCP Dwarka telling us that Operation Watches is in good hand and it's working fine for Delhi police, and they will be looking to increase the quantum of work that they have been doing. With camera person Surinder, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India, Delhi.
All right, time now to get you the next segment in our show, the Web News Review. And our colleague Tapas is joining us with the Web News Review. Tapas, good morning. Let's listen in from you. What all stories have you picked up for us from the social media platforms?
Good morning, Preeti and Shubhendu. Yes, and let's start this web review with the first story from Times of India, which says that Cabinet clears the repeal of farm laws. Union Cabinet, in fact, yesterday approved the PM's announcement and relevant draft bills to repeal the 3 central farm laws, and it is expected that this particular law will be repealed on the first day. This particular bill will be introduced on the first day of the upcoming winter session of Parliament, and the process is expected to be wrapped up in the first week itself of the session. So that is the first news that we are checking. The second is the news from Hindustan Times, which says that National Family and Health Survey and more women than men in India for the first time. India now has 1,020 women for every 1,000 men, and is not getting any younger and no longer faces the threat of a population explosion. All the 3 findings are part of the summary findings of the 5th round of the National Family and Health Survey, which was released by the Union Health Ministry yesterday. And the total fertility rate or the average number of children per woman in India is now just 2, which is below the internationally accepted replacement level of fertility. So that is another great news coming in. The third is again is from the Times of India, and it's a Navy submarine INS Vela to boost Navy's underwater combat arm. The headline says India's depleting underwater combat arm will get a major boost with the electric 4th diesel electric Scorpion submarine INS Vela, which will be it will come into it will be started. And this comes under the 23,000 crore Project 75 and is part of the 6 Scorpion submarines that Navy has commissioned. And this, the 5th and the 6th, will be delivered over the next couple of years. And this particular project has faced, earlier huge time frame, but after the intervention of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it has been expedited, and this is the reason why we are seeing the 4th submarine coming into focus. So that is another great news coming in. Internationally, the other news that I'm taking is from Times of India. Sweden's first woman PM resigns hours after taking charge. That is a headline that says Social Democratic leader Andersson quit as Prime Minister on Wednesday, less than 12 hours after being appointed when a coalition collapsed, plunging the country into political uncertainty. So that is the news that we are covering in international. The other news, last but definitely not least, US weekly jobless claims dropped to 52-year low. Q3 growth revised slightly up. That is the headline from Times of India. The number of Americans filing the claims for unemployment benefits fell to their lowest level since 1969 last week, which points to a recovery of economy, after the pandemic. So these are the major news headlines that we've been covering, and hopefully it will make a major, you will find that these are important news in days to come also. Back to you for more news and updates, Preeti and Shubhendu.
Thanks very much, Taposh, for getting us those stories from the web portals. And let us now look at news from across the world in our next segment.
All right, let's get to the global COVID figures first. When we talk of the cases, they're still soaring across the world. The virus has so far infected more than 25 crore 96 lakh people, while the number of recoveries have crossed 23 crore 48 lakh. The virus has claimed over 51 lakh 91,000 lives worldwide, and US has been the worst hit country in the world since the beginning of the pandemic. And it has over 4 crore 89 lakh cases and fatalities standing above 7 lakh 98,000. Also, in the past few weeks, a massive surge in COVID cases is being seen in Europe as well. The United Kingdom has registered the highest number of cases in the continent. The virus has infected over 99.74 lakh people there. France is also battling a surge of cases with over 74.83 lakh cases, and more than 55.46 lakh people in fact have been affected in Germany, and more than 49.54 lakh cases have been reported in Italy.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin participated in trials of a nasal form of a vaccine against COVID-19. Putin was revaccinated against coronavirus on Sunday with Russia's Sputnik light shot. Russia's flagship vaccine investor said nasal form of the vaccine would be sold to another country from next year. Research has been going on in countries around the world to develop nasal sprays to help prevent and treat COVID-19, particularly given that the lining of the nose has been identified as a key entry point for the virus. The original version of Sputnik vaccine, comprising 2 injections, has not yet been approved by World Health Organization and European Medicines Agency. Until that happens, nasal form, which is still being tested in Russia, would likely face similar regulatory headwinds.
New Zealand will keep its borders closed to most international travellers for a further 5 months. The government, however, outlined a cautious easing of border curbs that have been in place since COVID hit in March 2020. Fully vaccinated international travellers will be allowed to enter the country from April 30th next year onwards, with the reopening staged over time. Fully vaccinated people in New Zealand and residence visa holders in neighbouring Australia can travel to New Zealand from January 16th, while vaccinated New Zealanders and also residence visa holders, mostly from other countries, will be allowed in from February 13th. Travellers will no longer be required to stay at the state quarantine facilities, but other measures will be put in place, including a negative pre-departure test, proof of being fully vaccinated and a COVID-19 test on arrival.
And South Korea reported a new daily record of 4,116 new coronavirus cases as the country battles to contain a spike in serious cases requiring hospitalization. At least 69% of hospital ICU beds were filled up nationwide and 83% in the capital Seoul and neighboring areas alone on Tuesday. South Korea was one of the first countries to record novel coronavirus cases after it emerged in China in late 2019. It has since had 4,25,065 infections with 3,363 deaths.
France will announce new COVID containment measures today as infection rates surge nationwide, but does not plan a new lockdown like some other European Union countries. Meanwhile, strict policing is being undertaken as health passes are strictly being checked in restaurants as the COVID infection rate surges. France's health pass, which allows entry to public places for people who are vaccinated or have had a recent negative COVID test, is the key why infection rates in France are lower than in the neighboring countries. Introduced this summer, the pass led to a spike in new vaccinations, and also the government could boost its efficiency by increasing the control over its use.
And talking about Germany, where restrictions are becoming more stringent as the country battles to fight off 4th wave of COVID-19. As of Wednesday, so-called 3G rules in all German railways trains come into force, meaning passengers must provide proof of vaccination, recovery or have an up-to-date test. Random checks are being carried out across much of the country in cafes, public transport, Christmas markets, among other places. Germany registered some 66,800 new coronavirus infections and over 300 more deaths due to the virus, bringing the total number of casualties close to 100,000 on Wednesday. The Health Ministry has put together a proposal to make it compulsory for workers in nursing homes and clinics to be vaccinated from January 1st next year.
The European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control has said that COVID vaccine boosters should be considered for all adults, with priority for those above 40 years, in a major change to the agency's guidance. Recommendations issued by the Commission are not binding on European Union governments but are used to make health policy decisions. The Commission's head noted that the boosters should be administered at least 6 months after completing the primary vaccine schedule.
And at least 31 migrants bound for Britain died on Wednesday when their boat sank in English Channel from France to Britain in the worst disaster on record involving migrants in water separating the countries. The tragedy is called the biggest tragedy involving migrants on the dangerous crossing to date. A joint French-British search operation for survivors was still underway. Late on Wednesday, 34 people were believed to have been on the boat. The English Channel is one of the world's busiest shipping lanes and currents are strong. Overloaded dinghies are often barely stay afloat and are at the mercy of waves as they try to reach the British shores. The casualties included 5 women and 1 girl, while French police have prevented more crossings than in previous years. Reacting on the incident, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson expressed shock, and he said he was appalled by the deaths of the migrants.
I just want to say that I'm shocked and appalled and deeply saddened by the loss of life at sea in the Channel. I think that the details are still coming in, but more than 20 people have lost their lives, as you know. And my thoughts and sympathies are, first of all, with the victims and their families, and it's an appalling thing that they have suffered. But I also want to say that this disaster underscores how dangerous it is to cross the Channel in this way.
The annual Korean Film and Tourism Festival was inaugurated in Dhaka on Wednesday. The 3-day festival is showcasing 5 films and other live activities such as virtual tour, Korean folk games, hanbok wearing, dalgona candy making and also instant photo shoot, among others. Large number of students and film lovers attended the opening cultural program and also the film show at the National Museum venue at Dhaka. 4 films, Malmoy, The Secret Mission, Kim Ji-young, Born 1982, Alive and Red Shoes and 7 Dwarfs will be showcased during the festival.
And it is 25th of November today. Every day on D-Day India, we bring you special stories on India's glorious freedom struggle, which is one of the world's greatest struggles that the world has ever witnessed. In this edition of the Saga of Freedom, we remember nationalist and educationist Sadhu Vaswani on his birth anniversary. An early supporter of Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, Vaswani helmed as the principal of several prestigious colleges and later redefined learning through Mira movement in education. We'll also remember renowned poet, social reformer and freedom fighter Dula Bhaya Kak.
We remember nationalist and educationist Sadhu Vaswani, who was born on 25th of November 1879. An early supporter of Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, Vaswani helmed as the principal of several prestigious colleges and later redefined learning through the Mira movement in education. He was a prolific writer who authored several books in English and his mother tongue Sindhi.
Sadhu Vaswani was born Thavirdas Leelaram Vaswani in the Sindh area of undivided India. After completing his college, Vaswani asked his mother for permission to devote his life to the service of God and man. However, she did not agree, and Vaswani started teaching. Later, he accepted a position as Professor of History and Philosophy at Metropolitan College in Calcutta. It was in Calcutta that Vaswani found his guru Pramothulal Sen. In July 1910, Vaswani, along with his guru, sailed to Berlin to participate in the World Congress of Religions. Vaswani spoke to the conference as a representative of India and expressed a message of peace and tranquility.
Vaswani belonged to a time when patriotism manifested itself as a struggle for freedom from colonial rule. He worked as a close associate of Mahatma Gandhi in the Satyagraha movement. He wrote many books to inspire the youth of the country to offer themselves in dedicated service to the motherland.
He looked at the freedom movement as something more than the ousting of the colonial ruler. To him, it included the spiritual upliftment of India to free the masses from the shackles of poverty and to restore a sense of human dignity to every human.
Sadhu Vaswani was far ahead of his times. He spoke about women's upliftment and an ideal world-class education blended in character building in times when the country was still struggling for freedom from the British Raj and women were confined to the household. In 1933, The Mira School for Girls was inaugurated, and this school laid the cornerstone of the Mira movement in education.
Sadhu Vaswani dropped his mortal frame on the 16th of January 1966 at the age of 86. His passing was mourned across the globe. We salute this great Indian spiritual nationalist who not only worked for the independence of the country but also for the spiritual independence of the Indians.
Today, we also remember renowned poet, social reformer and freedom fighter Dulabhai Kag, who was born on November the 25th, 1902 in Saurashtra, Gujarat. Kag is known for publishing Kagvani, an 8-volume work consisting of devotional songs as well as songs based on Gandhian philosophy and the Bhudan movement. He wrote eulogies for Mahatma Gandhi and Vinoba Bhave.
In 1962, Kag was awarded the Padma Shri by the Government of India. He died on the 2nd of February 1977 at the age of 74. While Kag himself could not go to school beyond elementary, his poems today form a part of curriculum ranging from elementary to master's courses. On the 25th of November 2004, the Department of Posts released a commemorative stamp to mark Kag's 102nd birth anniversary.
All right, now we get you sports updates. After thrashing New Zealand 3-0 in the T20 International Cricket Series, Team India will now host the Black Caps in a 2-match test series. The first test will begin at 9:30 am today at Green Park Stadium in Kanpur. New Zealand have never won a test series in India. KL Rahul has been ruled out of the 2-match test series against New Zealand as the Indian opener had sustained a muscle strain on his left thigh.
And time now to get the weather updates from across the country.
A cyclonic circulation lies over southwest Bay of Bengal and extends up to mid-tropospheric levels, and because of this, low pressure area is likely to form over southwest Bay of Bengal and is likely to move west-northwestwards towards Sri Lanka and South Tamil Nadu coast. A trough runs from the cyclonic circulation over southwest Bay of Bengal to North Tamil Nadu in the lower tropospheric levels, and also because of this, light to moderate scattered and fairly widespread rainfall is likely over coastal Andhra Pradesh and Yanam, Rayalaseema, South Interior Karnataka, Kerala and Mahi and Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal. Also, squally winds are likely over southwest Bay of Bengal, Gulf of Mannar, along and also off South Tamil Nadu coast. Gradual fall in minimum temperatures is likely over many parts of East India during the next 2 days, and also gradual rise by 2 to 3 degrees is likely over most parts of West India during the next 5 days. All right, that's it in this edition of Breakfast News this morning. Again, we'll be back with a fresh show tomorrow, but that's it as of now.
And as we conclude, we're leaving you with this little bundle of happiness and joy. Look at these giant balloons, which are inflated on the eve of Thanksgiving Day parade. Take a look. We'll take your leave. Namaskar.